basketball analysis with over 70 years combined experience. This is the Bob Ryan and Jeff Goodman podcast.
NBA, some college, a little bit of everything.
You know, what can I say? But it wasn't going to happen here.
Okay, it's time for the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tangway along for the ride. Pod right here on CLNS Media, brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. Okay, guys, usually we talk about the Celtics, but we have big news. Jeff Goodman has been fearing this for a long time, and Bronny James has been united with his papa, LeBron James, with the Los Angeles Lakers. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I've warned you about this for a long time, that it was going to happen. But now that it's happened, the whole country's going crazy over this, right? Like,
right.
You know, Bronny's going to play with LeBron, all this. I mean, listen, here's the thing, and I've told both of you guys this for a while. Like, Bronny James is a nice player. Okay, I've seen him play, I don't know, 25 times.
Right.
He's a nice player who would have been a all-league guy, I think, at the high major college level by the time he was a junior in college. He just got off a season in which he averaged like 4.5 points a game at USC as a freshman. He's a guy that, again, like, he plays the right way. I like him. He handles himself the right way. He knows how to play. He has no one part of his game that jumps off the page. He's 6'1", good defender, decent shooter, combo guard. I don't know if I really care that he was drafted 55th by the Lakers. I think people are just overdoing this. And yeah, like if he's playing on the Lakers this coming season on the real team over other players that are better than him, then I'll have an issue. But my anticipation here is that Bronny James spends 95% of his time with the South Bay Lakers in the G League this year. Than with the big boy team. And even if he's with a big boy team, you know, maybe he'll be sitting down the end of the bench, you know, basically looking like a towel boy. And hopefully he can develop into an NBA player in 3-4 years. But I don't anticipate that Bronny James is going to take minutes away from a real NBA player in the next year or two.
Is there any evidence that you know of that anybody else would have taken him?
I don't think anybody would have taken him. I can't see that. Here's the thing. Generally, these guys that are drafted after their freshman year in college, most of them are drafted because of their upside. Okay. Bronny James doesn't have that upside. He just doesn't have it. He's solid now. I don't see him making this huge jump. So the only reason somebody else would have drafted Bronny James, if Rich Paul hadn't told them, hey, basically don't draft him. The only reason, is maybe to get LeBron in a year. Like, that's the only reason you would have done it, right? Is to get 41-year-old LeBron. Like I said this over, for a while, like if I was like Minnesota, I might have looked at drafting Bronny and stashing him for a year and hoping you could get LeBron at 41. And he's the difference maker to take you to that next level where you may be able to win a title.
So what I'm getting at is that this, if his last name weren't what it was and his father wasn't, there's 50 other guys that could have been taken, right?
Yes,
go on.
100%.
And internationally, not just, overall, everywhere. He's the guys like him get. It's just. I'm just stubborn. All right, so it's pretty evident. I think we all understand that there's only one reason why he's a draft choice in 2024, and specifically, to the Lakers. Okay, fine. Mike, I'm thinking about. I still can't get over the idea about how the dynamics of that team are going to work. It's very interesting. There's one thing we know. We've all gone through with playing for a kid playing for dad, and what that means, at any level, up to and including very rarely the NBA level. We most recently with Doc Rivers and Austin. And we all know people. We all know circumstances about locally that we're playing for dad and what that means in the locker room. And it's awkward, frankly. And the scholastic.
Nobody talks about, hey, the difference is with the coach-son dynamic is the son is in the locker room with all the players, and the players talk shit about the coach.
Yes.
Nobody in the locker room is talking shit about LeBron. Nobody. It's not like Bronny's going to hear. Nobody's stupid enough to talk any shit about LeBron. So, and I don't think Bronny's going to be in the locker room that much during the season. Maybe I'm wrong, but again, I think they need to get it out of the way. If the plan is for Bronny to play with LeBron on the same court, let it happen fairly early in the season against the worst team in the league. Throw him in there for a couple minutes, get it over with, send him back to South Bay, and let him get reps and see if he can develop into a player. I just think it's overblown until it really affects the Los Angeles Lakers and their ability to win games. Right now, I just
no.
Listen, here's what I'll say, guys, is last year at USC, all the hype when Bronny came into college, all the hype, and then he had the heart issue, obviously. All this hype. And honestly, how much did we talk about Bronny James? He wasn't good. He wasn't good. His team sucked. Nobody talked about him. Nobody talked about him again until it got to the NBA draft. Now, the Summer League is going to be a circus, an absolute circus. I said it. It's the Summer League of Bronny this year. They're going to put every game on prime time for ESPN and build it up like Bronny is Lonzo Ball from, 8 years ago. But I just feel like eventually when people see Bronny and they realize he ain't that good, we're gonna forget about him. We're gonna forget about him.
You guys, do you know who loses here?
Well, I wouldn't want to be the coach of this team.
Bronny. Well, we'll get to Redick in a minute.
Bronny loses.
But Redick knew what he signed up for. Bronny loses because, look, I applaud LeBron. He's obviously an involved father. He's an involved parent. We've never heard a bad word about LeBron when it comes to being a family man. So that's terrific. But this hurts the kid. It hurts the kid, Bob. It just people are going to be jealous of him. People are going to say, you got here because of your dad, which he did. He's never going to be able to live up to the hype. He put his kid in a bad situation.
Well, I'm on record as saying that earlier this year, especially when the kid came out and said that no, it's not my goal to play with my father. He said it categorically. He said it publicly, and it's all about LeBron's wishes. And I think Jeff makes a very good point. He'll play his way out of this and off the radar screen during the season anyway. So it's a moot point. It made LeBron happy, which was the Lakers' goal, that's for sure. And meanwhile, JJ Reic, you're right. He knew what he signed up for, and I don't. Do
you remember Bob? Bob, do you remember Marcus Jordan? Remember Michael Jordan had two sons.
Just that there was a Marcus Jordan. I remember nothing. Yeah.
So he had two sons. One was a walk-on at Illinois, Jeffrey Jordan, who never really played. The second son, who I believe is the one who's now dating Pippen's.
Oh, that little.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Marcus Jordan played 3 years at Central Florida. Okay. He averaged, I'm looking at it right now. He was a nice player. He was a guard. He was like, similar to Bronny in some ways, an undersized two guard, as I recall. And he averaged his sophomore year at UCF. He averaged 15.2 points a game. His junior year, he averaged 13.7. He started every game. He started 77 games in his 3-year career. And nobody did this for him. Like, nobody did this. And, he kind of disappeared and he wasn't good enough. And again, I just think we're yes, we're giving Bronny something that, like you said, Gary, in a way, you feel bad for Bronny. You feel bad because you didn't really earn this, dude. You didn't really earn this. But
he knows it. And you said it, Jeff. You said, but one of you just said it. He said, I don't want to play with my dad. Bronny knows he didn't earn it. He knows it.
If he knows it, he could have easily said to his dad, hey, listen, Dad.
Can he?
19 years
Could he?
Old.
Could he?
Yes. He could have said to his dad, listen, I don't want to be drafted. I don't want that pressure. Let me this year go somewhere else. And then if next year in your final year, I mean, that's fine to me. If Bronny had gone, here's what should have happened this year. Here's what should have happened. Bronny should have went to Duquesne. He should have transferred to Duquesne. Drew Joyce is a new head coach at Duquesne. They were teammates back in high. LeBron has known Drew forever. So he could have played at Duquesne, put up some numbers, and then gone to the draft for LeBron's swan song, his final year. And then it's a cute little story that honestly is about, hey, listen, this kid's going to get a chance to play with dad, his final year with the Lakers. Yeah, he's throwing him a bone. He's not going to be drafted. He's a free agent. That's the part. Right now, a lot of people are like, well, he was drafted 55th. Somebody else should have been drafted. He took somebody else's dream away. And he did. I don't care that much about it, but I understand that, like, why did Bronny have to be drafted? Like, why? What for what? He was going to the Lakers anyway as a free agent. Really? Bronny needed the drafted it with the 55th pick next to his name? Like, come on, man. So, like, that part of it, pulling the strings here a little much, I don't think was necessary. But again, I keep going back to it. It's not going to be a one-day story because, again, it's going to crop back up summer league. It's going to crop back up during the season a little bit. But when people see that, they'll get used to him sitting on the bench with the Lakers potentially, sitting down the end of the bench, and there he is again. All right, yeah, go give him a towel. Go give him a towel. He can wipe up the floor when it gets wet. Whatever. I mean, that's what he's going to be this year. He is not going to have any impact on the Los Angeles Lakers. Zero. Bronny James is going to have zero impact on the LA Lakers this year.
Well, if the one thing left to say is that you have to assume that LeBron, or hope that he'll be realistic about the kid and will not in any way agitate or cause problems for Reic, because of the kid's inaction or whatever, which, we'll see. You'd like to think that he's smart enough to figure that out, but this is a parental thing. All bets are off sometimes when people would just refuse to be realistic about the kid. And we'll, in this case, it's not a coach, the son, it's a teammate. And it's bizarre, but I think you make very good points, Jeff, about what's likely to happen. But ultimately, though, it does depend, frankly, on LeBron being realistic about this whole thing.
Well,
to make it easier for the kid to speak to what Gary's talking about. The kid, his plight, his life is, it's. I'm sure there's been good things about being the son, but this is an age-old saga. Sons of celebrities, sons and daughters of celebrities, and particularly when they're in the same profession. It's why so many of them wisely go in another profession. Yeah,
right.
But that's a topic for another day. But in this case, no, he's chosen dad's profession, and so all right. Well, it makes for a rather unusual draft day story about a second rounder. I'll tell you that. This is the most discussed second rounder in my experience, for sure.
Game Time is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. So it's really easy. Just download the Game Time app. Okay, now to me right now, the Red Sox are the ticket you want. So go to a Red Sox game. There's nothing better than going to Fenway Park or going to a baseball game, period. So what you do is you download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off of your first purchase. Again, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey, Bob, did you like the 2-round, 2-day NBA draft this year, or would you rather go back to one night having both rounds?
Well, it's an endless night, and by the time I think it was actually a pretty good idea. I thought, yeah. Of course, I go back to the days when there were like endless drafts. When you could be a 17th round draft pick, literally. And
How many?
They go deep sometime back in the 50s and early 60s. Yeah, you got in the teens. But you said, and then it was 10, I believe, when I started, And the great thing about that was that the Celtics were always good about drafting local guys with no, just because in the 8th, 9th, and 10th rounds or so that they would be able to say for the rest of their life, I was a Celtic draft choice. And that, I loved that, and that was cool. And, but,
who was the guy? Hey, Bob, who was the guy that, was the 10th round pick? Is there one from years ago?
I'm trying to think. I'm going to have to go. I'll do research on that when we reconvene.
All right.
Because this, you can do some research on that, and very interesting. But that was what the draft was then. And of course, when I started, the draft was a conference call, and we were sitting in Red Auerbach's office listening to the Squawk Box. That's how we did the draft. So it's come a long way.
It has come a long way. Jeff, what do you think about Reic being the coach of the Lakers? Aside from this, we all know, look, he's got to deal with this, but aside from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I don't know what the other options were. Like, to me, it's like, all right, you're acquiescing to LeBron here. Obviously, they're I don't know if they're buddies, but certainly they're close enough that they were doing a podcast together.
They're business partners, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I think JJ's very smart. I think he knows he's very smart. Sometimes he acts a little too much.
What university did he go to? What school did he go to?
A little. And he was, listen, again, like, I just don't know how this is going to work from a standpoint of like there's a level of respect now for LeBron and JJ, but again, this is a guy that's never called a timeout. That I think his staff, I say this about college all the time too. Like, sometimes there's some guys that are hired as head coaches that, maybe don't have a lot of experience, or you're not sure, or make the jump up from the mid-major or even a low major to a high major job. And I've in the past crucified that hire. And then I've said over the last 5 years or so, I've said, I'm going to wait to see what their staff looks like before I crucify them. Because some of these guys, listen, they're not great, but they hire some really, really good, experienced NBA assistants that can help them, that can really be, again, a lot of it now is you have an offensive coordinator, you have a defensive coordinator, right. And JJ Reic's role might be more to deal with the players and the personalities, and obviously to call timeouts and make some, obviously call plays. But I don't know. I guess the jury's out on this one, and I don't want to say like it's a great hire, because I don't think it is. I don't want to say it's a horrible hire. I think it's somewhere in between. It's a risky hire, that's for sure. It's a risky hire, and I'm not sure why LeBron would want this at 40 years old, and with like the door clearly closing. Why you'd want to roll the dice on a guy that's never been a coach before, I don't understand that.
Well, the flip side of that is sooner or later he will be presiding over a deteriorating, fading superstar, and that might be a very sticky proposition. We've seen it happen in baseball for sure, and I just think it's not a great situation for him.
It never ends well, guys. It just doesn't. I mean, it really doesn't. Even maybe Michael going to Washington and just being the jump shooting guy that he was, and he got out before it became, embarrassing. But it's just hard for guys to shut it off. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. Get in on the daily action with your friends. Become part of the PrizePicks community today. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, their stat projections, and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You could turn $10 into $1,000. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Now, here's something that you can think about. What you can think about here with Prize Picks, here's an example of something you could. Well, this is the whole idea behind the concept. Caitlin Clark for more than 3.5 3-pointers made, and Brianna Stewart for more than 23 points. See, it's that simple. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. What I wonder, Jeff, is has LeBron given up on winning a championship and he's just going to kind of skate and do what he wants?
No, I don't think he's given up. I absolutely don't think he's going to give up on it. But you wonder if it's, he's at that stage of his life. You wonder where, hey, family and comfortability is more important.
Right. Yeah, you put it in a better term. In other words, to me, if he was totally focused on getting another ring, it wouldn't be about, okay, let's draft my kid and let's get my buddy as the coach. It would be, who are we going to get in free agency? How are we going to restock this roster?
Yeah, I think, again, he's comfortable. He doesn't want to leave LA. We know that. He's got a lot going on there. Life is good. Life is good. Like, other than the fact that, yes, he's not going deep in the playoffs, but who's to say, if he went to Philadelphia, they'd win the whole thing.
Right.
Either. I don't think, so how many places are there? Yeah, you come to Boston on a minimum, on a minimum and win another title. All right. Like, that'd be fun. Why? Yeah. Come on. I think Brad Stevens would be all for that.
No. So Bronny James wraps up. We'll put a wrap on that. And
Okay. Put a bow. Put a bow till summer, boys. Then we can talk about him all over again.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. It'll happen. All right, we move on to the draft. We'll get to the Celtics guys because they're not going to make the team. But, Jeff, if you want to give some comments on them, that's fine. But let's start with the top picks. It seems that France has become a basketball factory. How come, Jeff?
Well, it hadn't been again, yes, obviously we've seen Victor last year. Yeah, and now you've got these 4 guys that went in the first round. But let's face it, like there have been some guys that haven't fared all that well in between Tony Parker and Rudy Gobert, and then this group. And I'll give you a few. Killian Hayes wasn't very good. Frank Ntilikina wasn't very good. Sekou Doumbouya wasn't very good. Ousmane Dieng hasn't really played for Oklahoma City. Remember Gershon Yabusele? Remember Yabusele?
Right.
He was drafted like 15th by the Celtics. So, it's not like all of a sudden we're like, hey, these French, man, they are absolutely crushing. They're going to take over the NBA. All right, I'm not ready to say that, other than Victor. This was a horrible draft. It was a horrible draft. It was a bad draft at the top. Somebody had to go number 1. Somebody had to go number 2. We'll see how it pans out. But I will say this, it will surprise me if we get a Giannis coming out of this draft, as we did in 2013 in that terrible, terrible draft in which Anthony Bennett went number 1. CJ McCollum went in the top 10. Giannis went 15, 1 spot behind a kid named Shabazz Muhammad, who was at one point the number 1 high school player in the country, and we haven't heard from him again. He's been overseas pretty much ever since. So it's a bad draft. Hopefully Risa Shea can be a nice piece for Atlanta. Hopefully Sarr can be a good player for the Wizards. I think Minnesota won the draft personally, but the French certainly had a night.
It's conceivable that there'll be a lot of decent role players and rotation guys, not stars. That can happen. But right, in terms of star quality, it's very doubtful. I was intrigued with this draft before it started. Well, I knew less about it than any draft in the last 55 years. That's number 1. And that's for sure. I couldn't have told you a week ago or even 3 days ago the name of this guy, Zachary Richard, okay, or Alex Sarr, the number 2 pick. I was interested in 2 guys for the same reason: Donovan Clingan and Zach Edey. Given the drift of the NBA and the hostile takeover of the three, the change in nature of the game. You know, we have one guy, Zach Edey, 20 years ago would have been a first pick in the draft. Maybe even more recently than that, 15 years ago, 10 possible, right?
10.
That was the last year when he was a junior and was en route to his first of 2 players of the year. There was honest speculation that he would not have been drafted at all. Well, he had another good year this year and won another one. And then his question was, you know, how far down, and he'll get drafted, but will it be in the first round? Well, it turns out he goes number 9 to Memphis, and who do need to replace Steven Adams, and probably. And it's a logical place for a team that's looking for a big man to fulfill some kind of duty. But anyway, it was higher than a lot of people expected, certainly a month ago or 2 months ago, for sure, right? Meanwhile, Donovan Clingan, I guess he worked out very well.
I mean, listen, the pendulum is swinging back a little bit here with these bigs. I mean, nobody ever expect. Now, again, couple factors. One, the draft at the top was not strong. Right. So in a normal year, I think both these guys go in the 15 range. Okay, so I think everybody you pull back about 8-10 spots for the most part. So, but even then, even saying that, like, Donovan Clingan is a beast on the defensive end, but he can't really score. So it surprised me still that he went 7th, and some people were trying to pull the wool over our eyes and say he was in the mix for the number 1 overall pick when he wasn't. Zach Edey was phenomenal the last 2 years, and I'm really happy for him because this is a kid that really started taking up basketball 7 years ago in Canada.
16 years old.
Baseball and hockey player. I remember doing a big story on him a couple of years ago. And I've watched his progression over the last 3 years. My biggest question is going to be that neither one is Jokic, neither one is Embiid. Those guys are outliers as bigs, as skilled bigs who can play both ends of the court, who know how to play, who can do everything. You can throw them out there and you don't have to worry. Like, they can do everything. They're not going to hurt you in any one area. Zach Edey can't really guard at all in the perimeter. That's going to be a hard deal for him. He can't step out and make shots from the perimeter. Embiid and Jokic can both do that, right? They're both fully capable of stepping out. Clingan can't score right now in the post other than as a lob threat. Can't score. Now, shot looked okay. He shot a few threes, and the kid's an awesome kid. Both of them are awesome kids. So I'm rooting for him, but I just wonder if the coach isn't on board, are they anything more than a 15 to 18, maybe 20 a minute a game guy in the NBA, and is that worth a top 10 pick even in a weak draft?
So the question here is how can and will someone improve? And you can adjust. And we got the all-time exhibit A for a big man to, okay, this is what I got to do, and I'm going to go in the gym, I'm going to do it, is Brook Lopez. Lopez, the first 5-6 years of his career, attempted like two three-point shots. He made himself into a major three-point shoot threat in the last 4 years or so. So it's inconceivable that, particularly, I can see Clingan, working harder and making himself more of a reliable three-point shot, to be more of that the all-around type of big man that you were alluding to. And I don't know about Edey if he wants to. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, that's allow for the possibility that each of them could improve if he works hard enough and gets the right tutelage.
I mean, listen, Al Horford, I'll give you a number right now.
Yeah.
Over the first 8 years of Al Horford's NBA career, you want to guess how many three-pointers he made?
6.
21. He made 21. So basically averaging about 3 three-pointers a game over his first 8 years. This past year, you know how many three-pointers Al Horford made?
More than 21.
108. 108.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's a good example.
Again, listen, no doubt, and I have no doubt that Clingan and Edey are going to get better. They both have, and they were both raw when I first saw them a few years ago. I just I don't know. Let's see where the NBA is heading. Again, Joker and Embiid are different dudes. These guys aren't them. These guys are not them. Trust me.
All right, guys, we got a few minutes. So just thoughts on Baylor Scheierman, who
Baylor Scheierman.
Scheierman, sorry, thank you. Good.
Yep.
I'll lead. That's the last time I'll need to know it. From South Dakota State, and Anton Watson from.
No, you're going to need to know it. You're going to need to know that one.
Scheierman?
Anton Watson,
Scheierman.
you're probably not going to need to know. But
Okay.
Baylor Scheierman, trust me. So the first time I saw this kid play was South Dakota State was playing Providence in the NCAA tournament a few years ago in the same region that UConn, by the way, lost to New Mexico State. And I see this kid with a headband on. I had seen him on over the last couple of years at South Dakota State because they're one of the better mid-majors in the country. And Bob's going to lead us to Eric Henderson, South Dakota State head coach here in a second. But headband on, 6'5", 6'6", and he's got a flair about him. He's got the ball in his hands a lot. He can shoot it. The whole offense is kind of built around Baylor Scheierman at this point. He, again, flashy passes, big, could shoot the hell out of the ball. Just a baller, an absolute baller. And after 2 years ago, he transfers to Creighton. And he at that point, NIL had just started. And he made some good money to go to Creighton at that point. And he goes to Creighton. He has 2 really, really good years, again, where he shoots like almost 40% from 3. He can pass it. He rebounds his position. He is going to play a role on the Boston Celtics. Trust me, this kid can shoot the hell out of it. He can move the ball. He's a great decision maker. He's got size. The only thing he can't really do, he can't really guard at a high level, but he can do almost everything else.
Sounds good, Bob.
I did speak with Eric Henderson, who recruited him out of the town of Aurora, Nebraska, population 4479, according to the Atlas, and where he was a major football star as well, a quarterback, by the way. The only offer he got was they were the only team to offer him a D1 offer at South Dakota State. And he, as Jeff said, he played the 3 years there, and that then needed after he was the best player in the Summit, and then transferring up and working out very well. He plays, according to Eric, with an unbridled joy. He is a passionate lover of the game of basketball, and he transmits this joy to his teammates. That he is he said, no, he'll never be a superstar in this league, but he said he will fit in on and off the court with this group, and that he is an ideal fit. If you're going to be picking 30th in the draft, he's an ideal fit for this particular team at this particular point in time. They couldn't have found. Now, why him? On top of it, just so happens that Kyle Marshall, who was an assistant for Eric Henderson at South Dakota State, played for Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens has had this guy on his radar screen for a long time because of his connection with Kyle Marshall. So that answers that question. Why him above? You might be able to find that profile for 10 other guys around the country that we don't know a lot about, but Jeff does, but we don't. But this is the guy, and so there you go. That's why it's him and not somebody else, because Brad Stevens has known about this guy, and this is no act. This is no gee. What do you think? No, this is calculated that they have Baylor Scheierman. And so I think it's an excellent pick.
He's going to play because Brad wouldn't have drafted him. He would have traded out of that pick if he didn't really like him and think that he can make which he will, because he can give you some of the same things Hauser. He can give you some of the same things, Gary, that Hauser gives you, but he's a better overall player.
Okay, so Hauser loses playing time eventually?
They're different positions, but sure, in a sense that you could throw Scheierman out there in the second unit, and again, he's big enough and he moves the ball and he can get to the basket. Like, he's going to be fun to watch with these dudes. I'm telling you, he's going to be, and you want to leave him alone, just like Hauser. He's probably not quite as good of a pure shooter as Hauser, but again, he's a guy that knows how to make the right play. He'll find dudes, and he's flashy, he's crafty. And if you put him out there the beauty of the Celtics team is he's going to be out there in the second unit with one of Tatum or Brown, one of White or Holiday, maybe Horford. So there's going to be some good defensive players out there with him that he won't be exposed quite as much on that end of the floor.
This is where
Right.
context is always everything when you're talking about guys and drafts and football and basketball. I'm sure in hockey as well. Not so much baseball because it's more of an individual accumulation of separate individual acts. But he's very fortunate that a team such as the Celtics exist at them as they are that won him, and this could be a terrific marriage. So I'm interested to see how it transpires.
Guys, great job as always. Still to come, Dan Shaughnessy, Bob Ryan, a career retrospective. We're doing that next week. We'll be running it during the month of July on CLNS. Don't forget about that. We've been brought to you by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks.